Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Friscic. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Gainsight. I am so excited to be joining ProductCon to talk to you about aligning product and customer success teams to fuel growth. So let's jump in. I'm joined today by Alon, founder and CTO of Gainsight PX, and Denise Stokowski, Group Vice President of Platform Products and PX at Gainsight. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of product and customer success team collaboration in the product-led growth world. We'll start off with the journey to product-led growth. We'll talk a little bit about retention and expansion and how product-led growth relates to retention and expansion. We will go through why product and CS need to partner in order to power a successful strategy. And then we'll continue the discussion with some common questions and answers around those topics. So with that, I'd like to introduce Alon. Take it away.
Hi, thank you for having us. Excited about to talk about product-led growth. As we know, product-led growth is using the vehicle as the primary tool for customer acquisition, retention, and expansion. But today we want to focus on really the other side of the funnel. Traditionally, when you speak about product-led growth, you start with trial experience, reducing friction, optimizing customer acquisition cost. But today we actually want to focus on the B2B enterprise space, where we can really make the most impactful input into the product strategy and also into customer success. What can they do in order to collaborate with product and have a stronger outcome for customers and for the company? So let's talk about the new growth strategy. If you think about it today, the traditional marketing funnel today on customer acquisition is really focusing on qualifying us as users, as prospects. So what happens is we are trying as users, it will take quite a bit of time to get to the part where we're becoming a customer. So there's a lot of energy to qualify us as MQLs, for example, based on our top of funnel type of behavior. Then sales come in, try to, again, qualify us if we are ready for the product. And then there's a lot of energy going on there, a lot of focus going on there. And then what it happens is when I'm a customer, a lot of energy is being lost. So there's a transition and it's a massive change in the way big companies are thinking about growth, which is kind of flipping the funnel upside down. They put the customer at the center, and what we see here is actually creating a flywheel. In a flywheel situation, the customer is actually an input, not an output. At the left side, the customer is an output. Once you become a customer, we're not investing as much to expand, to cross-sell into you. In a flywheel, when you're a more mature company, you have more offering for these customers, you want to be able to start simple and then grow over time. And that's a big shift. It's a paradigm shift in the way you want to think about growth. From product perspective, when it comes to product, we always think about the next features, right? We want to differentiate and we want to basically look at the more long-term roadmap. But another shift is happening, and we need to take care of that, is to really stay tuned to what customer success is telling us with regards to what's happening with the customers. Are they able to move through the adoption, and are they able to basically see value and outcome with your product? So the shift is from product lifecycle to customer lifecycle. So you want to have that bucket that says, like, where can I help beyond my next differentiated features and my big release? Do I have a bucket for the unplanned set of features just to learn from what's working, what's not in my customer journey? And how can I optimize these features that help customers go through acquisition, adoption, retention, and then they're going to be ready for growth. If we don't do that, we continuously push more features out until the product is too complex, and we basically are not serving our customer the best way, because in a subscription business, the whole point is to create this renewal, to create more value to customers over time, as opposed to one big funnel and effort, a lot more features, and then a lot more friction into that funnel or journey of users. So that's what we see as the new growth methodology it's being adopted by a lot of companies as soon as they get to a maturity phase, that they have more offerings to customers and they just want to build a better journey for them. So in SaaS B2B, as I said before, there's a lot of phases in customer lifecycle, and we want to today focus on retention and expansion, making sure first we are able to retain. So what is product-led retention? And then when customers are actually realizing true value with the product, then how can you build a product-led expansion motion where the product is actually that vehicle to drive that? So with that, I'm gonna introduce this type of metrics, so just understanding. When we speak about expansion, one of the metrics that you need to understand is the net dollar retention. Net dollar retention is actually a metric that helps you understand how well are you expanding and what is the cost of expanding with your install base. It means that you're able to maintain customers and then also expand in a more effective way. You're not investing the same amount of marketing and sales dollars when you expand. And we know, so the biggest thing in product-led growth is to be able to maintain customers, make them into happy customers, healthy customers, so they can effectively cross-sell and upsell without going through that heavy lifting. And what you can see that product-led companies have a winning set of metrics. The efficiency as the business is beyond the average in the market, above 120% of NDR. It means that they're able to extract and sell more value in a lower cost as they do it. So therefore, their valuation is actually growing. And you can also see they're able to measure the customer acquisition cash back into the system. So they're able to still keep customers coming into that flywheel, continue to upsell and cross-sell in a very effective way, because the customer acquisition is the expensive motion. The cross-sell and upsell should be something more natural for your customers, and also ties to the way you structure your journey, the way you structure your pricing and packaging, and the way you're serving your products. Just as a GRR number, growth revenue retention, the average should be 90%. And if you increase that metric, you can really lead to increase in profitability. So the bigger the company is, the bigger impact is on the GRR. This is why we want to focus on product-led growth in those sections, because I think in customer acquisition, it might be helpful to drive down customer acquisition costs, but any point you optimize on your growth revenue retention leads to much more impactful profitability. Let's understand what we mean in retention area from product perspective. As product leaders, we want to make sure that we are also supporting the business in their retention. So on the right side, you can see a chart as a customer and going through that journey. So I was onboarding maybe with high touch or low touch, but then I'm in my adoption journey. As a persona, I have a couple of objectives to go and accomplish with your product. But the gap between what I'm able to achieve with your product versus what I'm really realizing, the true value, the gap is on the right side is exactly between, am I able to meet my objective? Do I experience that outcome or I don't? And this is where existing features, core features, sticky features need to be prioritized as well. Otherwise, you create this triangle of space that's saying, hey, customers understand the value, but they just cannot achieve it. And this is exactly going to impact your GRR number, because obviously, if they are not experiencing value, they will not renew. And the better you do it, the more effective you're enabling your customers to grow. And the best cure for churn is actually product adoption. And one of the things we do recommend doing is putting the data at the center, building a data-driven culture. You want to measure so you can improve, but focusing on those key features, value action, identify friction point in your product. So it's actually a learning cycles you want to apply. In many cases, again, we think about the next release and the next release. Let's have that bucket of key area we're going to invest with engineering, looking at data, seeing where customers are stuck. Is it in which adoption phase are they stuck? And that will surface in our data. We can also look at the feature path and to see exactly what they do and whether they need the help most. So using data is very helpful to identify those friction points. Another thing is to leverage beyond data. There's actually user data that you have at hand if you're able to engage with your end users. One of the very effective way is to apply surveys. You can actually say, for example, trigger a customer effort score like you see on the left side. As soon as they used a critical core feature or sticky feature, try to ask them, how was the experience? How easy was it to accomplish that? Maybe it was your key workflow. Also allow them to give you some comments. You'll be able to score your different features, and for your product team and customer success, now you can align saying, hey, we're saying we are green on these set of features, but we are red on this feature. This feature really drives the most value. Maybe it's the dashboard, maybe it's campaign, maybe it's a workflow. That is very actionable insights to learn and create these cycles of optimization. Then you also want to do some more research when you're asking more deeper questions based on where the customer is. As soon as they're moving from onboarding to adoption, maybe after they renew, or they have a different, maybe they expanded, you want to ask these different questions, deeper ones, and you can also share and ask them for their prioritization based on the feature you're planning to release, just to get that feedback, just to get that alignment that see, hey, what I'm planning to release next quarter or next year, where does that fit to your needs as a user, and just see the score, what is the top scored. And again, using data, you want to look at usage and you want to look at other data points that we're going to cover in the next couple of slides. This is where I think it's creating those loyalty or our investment loop process. This is something that we're seeing more and more becoming an area of focus. The way you want to use data, the way you want to leverage that data is creating this measure, learn, iterate process. So again, as part of your roadmap, you want to get the input from your customers, input from sales, input from marketing, or customer marketing, and obviously input from customer success, and say, okay, based on what we heard and based on what the user actually are doing, scoring or telling us, let's create a faster loop to say, these are quick wins. These are actually features we can just enhance usability, help them with defaults. Those are the type of features that always stuck in your backlog. Push them forward. It's not a big change to the end user. It's just making their life easier, more productive, and highly appreciated in the end. So quick learning loops about existing features you might have built 6 months ago or a year ago, but now no longer serving the same purpose, and customers just want more usability enhancements. One of the key things also is to monetize on your investment in product, right? You actually invested in enhancing these features. You want to notify users, hey, you know, we heard you, or we're seeing other needs, and we just released more advanced features, or actually better way to achieve the same goal. You want to close the loop and message them while they're when it's most relevant for them. So there might be in the product, there might be next to that feature, and the next best thing for them to do is to use what you actually built. So raising their awareness with feature activation tactics would mean, I would gonna trigger that as soon as you're as soon as I see it's most relevant for you. And that can be just a simple 1 or 2 step walkthrough, just to show you, hey, it's here, here's the value. And we're seeing more and more companies making sure that whatever they invested and released is being used and monetized. Otherwise, in the data, you will see that your features are getting kind of into a hype motion because you just message the release and then it just drops. So you want to also make sure you're nurturing them to those key features. So to make sure that they know about them and they use them at the right time. And you need to wear a hat of marketing. Marketing knows that they need to nurture you in more than one time, especially in B2B. The same way is here. I want to make sure that I'm telling you, this is the feature, this is what the value is, and here's where to find it.
Thanks, Mickey. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Denise to talk about now, how can you align product and customer success teams to continue to further drive this growth?
Right. And Mickey shared with us so many different approaches to really being able to leverage things in your product and drive through those product-led motions. But even in those product-led motions, we have an ultimate partner in, especially if you're in a B2B company, our ultimate partner is our customer success team. And I want to talk about how customer success and product can really work together to drive success for our customers. So if we think to dive in a little bit, what does that mean, customer success? Well, the customer success team is focused fundamentally on helping our customers achieve the value and outcomes that they bought the product for. And obviously, Mickey just shared a bunch of examples of how you can leverage your product experience to also reach the customer to drive one of our key goals. Fundamentally, a key necessary thing for a customer to get value is to use your product. So both teams are united in that goal of driving customers to adopt and use the product. And for a strong partnership, there's really some key things that are required to deliver on those product promises. One is you really do need a unified understanding of who the customers are, who the users are, what the features are. And importantly, this is where partnership and information flowing both directions can be really helpful. And I'll talk through some examples for shared insights. What is product usage insights? What are customer health insights? And maybe most importantly, to drive that flywheel, especially in retention and expansion, it's important that you have actions that you're driving. But a lot of customers, especially in the B2B space, you have multiple personas. You need to coordinate the actions, both leveraging your digital and in-product channels, as well as the humans and those human-first CSMs that you can work with. So one key shared insight is you want to understand what customer health is. And what we like to think about customer health is both understanding the outcomes the customer is experiencing, as well as the experience they have themselves. And when you're working, and as you work with larger and larger customers, the dimensions of what health means becomes more than just adoption. So the example we're showing here is there's multiple components of outcomes. It's how well are they deployed? Are they using what they bought? Are they engaged with us regularly? Are they adopting the product and the key features? But there's also key measures of experience. So Mickey touched on some of those you can gather sort of within your product. But there's also things like just overall what the sentiment is. And when we think about sentiment, especially as you're working with B2B, other B2B companies, is you have multiple people that will have different sentiment. You have your users, you have your buyers, you have your stakeholders, and all of those are key components of what we consider customer health, and probably what your CSMs are feeling and experiencing as they work with a customer. Now, the next piece that you need to make sure that you work with customer success on is coordinating actions across the journey. In most scenarios, we look at our customers in different segments. So as we look, we call it, you may have a digital touch segment where you try to do most of these CS and product actions as automated as possible. And then you probably have your correspondingly different segments where you have more and more interaction with the people at a face-to-face level. And through all these, one thing that's common is bringing our customers through a journey from welcoming to seeing their health, to helping them reflect on how well they're using it through EBRs, and ultimately driving that flywheel through renewal expansion. And if you don't partner between customer success and product, those experiences and those key components and touch points across the customer journey can feel uncoordinated. So it's really important that you're partnering together to look at the journey holistically to drive that flywheel. And one of the things we want to highlight, we'll share these slides. You can see sort of what we recommend in each areas, but I want to focus in on cross-functional alignment and what the goals, activities, and metrics that are really key to that for success. So the first piece is obviously having a partnership with your success team. There's so much information that we in product can learn from our customer success team. And it's important, as I was showing you that customer journey, there's a lot of activities and opportunities to expand the message. So when customers are onboarding, you can get even that much more between bringing them through these great product-led experiences, but also having sometimes like a human touch to really get feedback as well. And that starts to create that relationship with your customers. And you do that through activities of alignment. We take, at Gainsight, we even take opportunities like EBRs to get more direct and conversational feedback around not only what they're achieving with their product, but things that they'd like to see. So there's great opportunities even for you as a product team to meet and develop relationships by working with the customer success team through these activities. And of course, one of the things CS is looking for is which customers are at risk. And that's often where, you know, if there's product feedback or if there's things they're challenged within the product, these are great opportunities where product and CS can work together to address those things. And as we've talked about, some of the shared metrics between product and customer success, things like the health score, very importantly, adoption, which is that fundamental kind of unifying component that I talked about at the beginning, and driving both retention, gross retention rate, which is basically preventing churn, and net retention, which is also about the expansion and growth of clients. We both in customer success and product need to be driven by those metrics. And importantly, NPS, how do they feel about your company and your product? So these are areas where you can have shared goals and activities with your customer success team.
Thank
So
you, Denise.
hand it back to you, Christine.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. And thanks for walking us through that. I think I would love to dig in a little bit deeper and explore into a couple different areas. So, you know, I would love if you could share a little bit more about what do you see as some of the challenges that product and customer success teams face as they're trying to get in this rhythm and operate in lockstep. And Mickey, would love to get your take on that too.
Yeah, I'll start. I would say, you know, one of the core challenges is often scale, right? So, you know, product teams are about 5% of the number of people as, you know, your customer facing teams. So you can imagine, like, obviously you want to open up that door. And I can imagine many of you would be thinking, if I open that door, will I just be inundated? And so what's really important is establishing that partnership, but also focusing on tools like Mickey was talking about in her approaches in product-led growth. It's an opportunity not necessarily to have to do everything through an individual conversation, but talking and understanding and unifying on goals around the patterns and using then the approaches of both product-led experiences in conjunction with some of the really high value opportunities you have as a product team to engage with customers directly. So scale is probably one of those biggest things, just because frankly, you know, product teams probably don't have enough time in the day, just like many people, to be able to go out and talk to everyone. And so this can be a way to really combine digital, human, and really think about your CS team can help you collaborate best on even customers to talk to. They're also a great resource for that.
Awesome. Mickey, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think that the best way is to really tune into the data. When we think about growth, which is a term coming from marketing, it's all about scale. Marketing are never thinking about one-to-one anymore. Maybe it's like really in the ABM motion, but eventually it's about scale. How can I get consistency, scale, and drive personalization, personalized experiences? Product is where the customers is, right? They're basically spending most of the time in the product, and this is where the value, this is where the rubber meets the road. They want to understand how to use your product. So I think aligning on the customer journey, where are they in the product, and making sure that you're hearing customer success on one side and hearing the other customers as well. But I think it's one of the things is to align on data, because it gives you a way to quantify what's going to be more impactful. Because customer success, I'm meeting customers every day. Maybe a very upset customer can influence a lot of their feelings as well. You know, they want to help the customers, and product, we want to understand the big picture. And we're getting so much opinions, so much feedback from everybody. So we have to start using data. How many customers we have from this, which segment? Is this a segment you want to invest in? And what will be the impact, the total revenue impact, or NPS and advocacy impact when we invest there? So for us, to team up the best way, mapping the journey and starting using data. Once we have these insights, start putting action into place, meaning can you scale with the messaging? Can you have part of the messaging going to the product and making sure that customers are able to realize value more? And then obviously blend in the higher touch when you go up market to enterprise. So aligning on data, journey, and action is actually a great first step to collaborate.
Awesome. And so we talked a lot about sort of the shift to more of a product-led approach to everything, to the entire customer flywheel. When thinking into the future a little bit, what do you see as the biggest trends in the market that will impact product teams as they look to more closely align with their customer success counterparts, and just continue to drive that collaboration and product-led growth?
I think that there's going to be a new role that basically represent the full journey, because eventually we still have each function has its own job eventually, but nobody's looking at the end-to-end customer journey and then thinking about what will drive that adoption. And the best folks to do it are coming either from product management or customer success, because you have to understand the journey, but you also have to understand marketing, messaging. How do you do it without annoying the user? How do you do it contextually, concise, consistent, on brand? There's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. So to me, the new PM of growth or CS of growth is going to be more and more a role that is going to have a lot of impact on companies. And the bigger the company is, the more product you have, the journey becomes more impactful, but more complex. So you have to have really teams and leadership focus on growth. And I do think they're going to just take the journey end to end, as opposed to be part of a specific organization.
And I think one thing I would add to that, Christine, is, you know, I think as Mickey was talking about, we can, in product, we're also able to iterate and get things out there more frequently. So leveraging those channels to kind of keep driving, you know, that message and continued expansion, supplemented by sort of the conversations sometimes CSMs are having, and that they're aware of those things. You can really make an impact by leveraging, kind of laying the foundation with all the product-led motions, but then doubling down on it with, if you will, your human first motions can really help accelerate the growth and that loyalty kind of curve that Mickey was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's great. One thing, Mickey, that you mentioned just briefly, and I want to click into a little bit more is, so, you know, we've been talking about how these B2B companies can take that product-led approach and apply it to retention and expansion efforts. But will this impact the way that they price? Do they have to kind of change the way that they think about pricing in order to accommodate this new model?
Absolutely. I think one of the overlooked element is pricing and packaging. It may be starting like, many years ago, nobody's touching it. Everybody's used to it. Sales are used to it. And sales, again, are trying to optimize the deal size. If we remember the classic funnel, they'll try to extract every dollar from that deal and just run to the next deal. They don't think about, let me, basically be more adaptive to customers. As a buyer, I actually want to pay as I grow, as opposed to now take a bigger and bigger decision. So sometimes you'll see businesses saying, hey, let's make sure that we are able to serve the first initial value. Pricing and packaging would be simplified, and then leave the more advanced features to upsell that user. And it's just creating more synergy with the way customers want to consume products. Because otherwise I'm asking you to take a decision on a big budget and you just are not there to understand even the differences. So I think this is kind of really teaming up what customers expect and what the pricing and packaging should be to fit that. So that's something that is definitely needs a lot of enablement from sales perspective. Also realizing that sales are not just doing one sale and moving on. They're just doing 3 sales or 2 or 3 sales in the first year with you. They basically show you quick value. They actually show you time to value. Pricing is just no brainer. And then as you see value as a customer, they just keep that relationship with you throughout the first year and second year. And even for them, it's just better experience because they don't need to educate you very quickly in 90 days at the end-to-end value. And just, there's a lot of pressure on the system. And as a customer, you just cannot catch up quick enough. So I think pricing and packaging is a topic worth reading on and looking. OpenView, by the way, Ventures has an amazing content. Kyle actually presented at Pause for Product about pricing and packaging. It's a very fundamental element as you think about reducing friction and making customers feel that they can really take a safer decision with you, and just a no-brainer. And then as they expand, your pricing fits the usage as well. The more we see that your pricing, because you want to make sure that you're not also cannibalizing your own pricing. So if it ties to usage and usage ties to value, this is the best pricing model, because the more they use it, the more usage coming in, then they basically are happy to pay more. So that is the ideal pricing model.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. So Denise and Mickey, would love to get your input on, we talked a lot about product and customer success collaboration, but how can the product team partner with other stakeholders across the business to support this growth?
Well, I think there's opportunities, I think, in every part of the flywheel, right? So we didn't talk about every aspect of it, but certainly partnering with your marketing team, right, in those acquisition motions and thinking about what is that sort of quick time to value. Do you have an opportunity to drive from the earliest stages the flywheel? Partnering with your sales team on really being able to, just like even Mickey was saying, even thinking about how are we incorporating sort of pricing, packaging, expansion, because they will be selling more than once, right? They sell the initial deal, but they'll sell as this customer expands. We talked a lot in this session about customer success. And also, I think there's opportunities to obviously partner also with your support team, right? So what are the things that you can do to kind of create a better and better experience also with your customers, with their support team? There's just many areas, obviously, to partner with the different organizations to drive the flywheel.
Yeah, and we're seeing, for example, in customer acquisition, growth marketing with product is amazing collaboration, because you're going to see that the trial, for example, is going to be a course to action and a lot of experiments coming in. So to optimize that, maybe paid media, organic data into the trial, and understanding and having this PQL motion, product qualified leads, where you're going to take the classic marketing strategy when you say who's the buyer, they understand what the firmographic are, and then adding that usage. They actually are trying to achieve something on that use case that we just told them about in marketing. Collaborating with that data points is massive, because then they can really drive the right trials to your product, and that creates one loop. If you move to retention, customer success are your best friend. They understand exactly what customers are stuck. They need to also use data to say, hey, this is where the biggest impact, as opposed to they tend to also come in and saying, hey, this customer is really upset. And for product management, it's like, yes, I'm sorry, but I have 1,000 customers to address. So having more data points is because customer success knows best what are the best adoption strategies. Well, how can you message the best way? And when you go to expansion, it's where sales come in. Arm them with data. They would love to know that who's the customer, all the firmographics, but what are they doing? What are they saying? What is the NPS? What is the level of maturity? Are they using advanced features? What type of conversation I want to have with them? And from sales perspective, they need to also step up and really know the product. I think across the board, if you think about it in B2B, I'm not sure marketing and sales know the product deeply. So one of the things we do see in the future that if you want to be the best one in your sales or hit your numbers, you better know the product and even the space very well. Because when you upsell and cross-sell, this is where you become a trusted partner. And it's not just about high-level value. It's about show me, don't tell me. And I think that the expansion motion is to build effective one. You want to have the data, and you want to have sales that really understand the product.
Awesome. Mickey, Denise, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody who's tuning in here today, thank you for joining our session. And thanks to the product school folks for hosting us at ProductCon this year. And with that, I'll just click over. We have a few key takeaways, actions that you can take as you're working towards this product and customer success collaboration here. And, best of luck to everyone out there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.